We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse's Phil Brasher, as well as this week by Chuck Connor with the National Council of Farmer Cooperatives. And Chuck, we appreciate you joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Spencer. It's great to always join you guys.
Well, for starters, Chuck, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on this week, obviously a big week in the grand scheme of climate policy. We saw some things from the White House. We saw some action on Capitol Hill. Given your position at NCFC, as well as the leadership role you've played in the Food and Agriculture Climate Alliance, kind of interested to hear your thoughts. And I'll start off on the White House side of things. You know, we saw the Biden administration roll out this plan to cut U.S. emissions in half by 2030. But we haven't seen sector by sector targets or pollutants by pollutants targets from the administration as of yet. So from the chair you're sitting in, what do you anticipate this goal will mean for farmers and ranchers and the impact it might have on their actual production?
Well, it's a great question, Spencer. And I will just say, I had the opportunity to be on a Zoom call yesterday with the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, and he was pretty clear. He had just come from the White House and come from that event. And, he described this as a goal. And, we all have goals that we set, in our life and for ourselves. And this issue is no different. It's a goal. It's an aggressive goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Goals should be, those things that are a real stretch for us. Obviously, for agriculture, the details here are important. What role they see agriculture playing, but just in terms of a lofty goal here that they're laying out, I have no problem with that. We again look forward to working with them. The most significant thing I think this week has been a show of some bipartisanship on the climate space, and that's going to serve everybody well. And so we look forward to hearing more. But I'm not in any way concerned about an aggressive goal that's been laid out here.
Chuck, I have to ask you about the Growing Climate Solutions Act. The bill you referred to would put USDA in charge of certifying technical advisors and credit verification services. Big deal in terms of these credit markets. What's the path forward here? You've got an incredible over 40 co-sponsors in the Senate right now. A lot of skepticism about this over in the House, though, among Republicans. What's the path forward here, both in the Senate and in the House?
Well, it was strongly bipartisan in the House or in the Senate, as you know, on this. Phil, and I'm not a lot is passing by unanimous consent today. And so I commend Chairwoman Stabenow and Bozeman and Braun and others that made that happen. I don't disagree that there's some skepticism in the House, but, I hope that goes away. I think right now, there is just a real partisan environment. This sort of broke through that mold, which is a great thing. And we all hope maybe that this is an indicator of some things to come. But I think for the policy issue itself, I see no reason why the House Republicans or anybody else that matter should hesitate here. I mean, USDA is really the trusted source of knowledge and standards and measurements of this kind, particularly those involving, farmers in rural America. And to me, it's a little bit of a no-brainer here of why would you not put them in charge of this? Why would you not have, an advisory group that includes a lot of farmers, given the fact that they are most directly impacted here? Just policy-wise, why would you not be for this? And I can't help but think if we get sort of beyond just the general partisan nature here, that this bill should be able to pass the House as well. And I would encourage the House to pass this bill, really.
Hmm. What do you see happening as far? There's a number of groups that are farmers that are concerned that they may not be able to participate in these carbon markets. That they're primarily going to benefit farmers in the Midwest. Is it going to? Do you expect these to broadly benefit farmers across the country? And is there something Congress should do, or the administration should do, in terms of a carbon bank or more spending for conservation funding? What do you think should happen? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I think what should happen and what appears to be happening, on the ground seem to be, in my view, matching up a little bit at this point. And I say this, the Growing Climate Solutions Act and the Carbon Bank are obviously two separate issues, but yet they are interlinked. And I think the good thing for the Growing Climate Solutions Act is we have an agency in charge. They're responsible for training people on the ground that are going to be out there doing verifications and certifications. That's important. I mean, you can't have farmers across the road from each other being held to totally different standards or measurements or anything like that. That will wreck a program quicker than anything. So I think that standardization, that training is important part of it. But then as that, where it does start to intertwine then with, the carbon bank and that's whole circumstance is really, we've got, a shot to sort of get this right. And as I understand it now, particularly as it relates to carbon banking, we're headed in a direction of, I don't know whether they're going to call them pilot programs or sort of on the ground trials or whatever, but it's a methodically moving sort of effort here. And it's not just simply jumping in with both feet. And I think that's the right approach here, Phil, because again, we've got a chance to get it right. There's been some fits and starts relative to carbon banking before. We've got a mulligan. I don't know that we'll get another mulligan if this one doesn't go right. So it's important that we do get it right. And I think just moving slowly and methodically down this path is the right way to make sure we do, so that it is available to farmers. They trust what they're being told, the measurements that are being used, and as well, obviously, available to many, many producers out there across the country of various types.
So you see this as the carbon market and the use of the CCC in terms of possibly a carbon bank spending from USDA. You see that ramping up slowly.
I do. I think it's, and again, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to characterize it. For now, I'm going to call it pilot efforts to really sort of get their feet on the ground and get this functioning well before, just jumping out there and making it, a nationwide program. I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think the technology is there yet. And we need to move slowly. And again, we've got a chance to get this right. We may not get another one. So it's important.
I have to ask you about immigration. We have not heard a lot about that issue. There's not a lot of focus on it from the administration or Congress, although the House did pass the Farm Workforce Modernization Act again, with some Republican support to expand the H-2A program and put the existing workers on a path to legal status. What are the chances of Congress addressing this year or next?
Well, that's a great question, Phil. And, we were pleased that the bill passed the House again. And I will tell you, we were especially pleased, that it was a pretty strong bipartisan bill. I forget what we got, 30 plus Republicans, perhaps again in that range. And, we weren't totally sure that was going to happen, just given the political climate and the timing of that vote. Again, these are not highly bipartisan times. And so, we weren't sure of the outcome, but we got strong Republican support in the House as well. I think a critical part of that is, in the middle of that House debate, of course, Senators Bennett and Crapo, Democrat and Republican, stepped forward and commended that process and indicated that they would like to play a leadership role in the Senate on this issue as well. That's important. These are two strong leaders that I think give us as good a shot in the Senate as we've had in a very, very long time. We are in the process, Phil, as an agriculture workforce coalition of identifying all of the changes that we would like to see in the House passed bill. We supported it, but obviously there's still a lot of work to be done on that bill. We're in the process of doing that and delivering that to the Senate and to Bennett and Crapo, and that'll be done here shortly. I will tell you as well, though, Phil, that legislation, as you know, is the art of timing, and it's my view, and I think probably shared by others as well, that right now is not, good timing in terms of immigration debate in the Senate for agriculture. Until this border situation calms down a little bit and gets beyond that, we really don't want to be out there having a highly public debate in the Senate on these issues. We still have work to do, and so later on, when we've delivered our recommendations up there and work closely with Bennett and Crapo, we hope, that the Senate will take this up, but not right now.
Chuck, want to wrap things up
as
today.
Good a chance as we've had in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Chuck, want to wrap things up today talking about something we're kind of watching for next week, and that is sort of broader action and broader explanation from the Biden administration about how it plans to approach some individual tax provisions. Wondering anything in particular you're going to be watching for in those announcements as it will relate to the business of farmers and ranchers.
Well, from a co-op perspective, Spencer, I will tell you, you may recall that in the final hours of the Trump administration, they issued a final rule relative to the 199A deduction that was not very favorable to co-ops. And so we've been working with the new leadership team at Treasury to try and get that rule pulled back and get another look at it, because without some change in that for a lot of farmers out there, they would see a pretty hefty tax increase. And I think that's a totally unintended consequence from Congress and anybody that was involved. They're not looking to raise, taxes on farmers as a particular group. So that's out there more broadly, obviously, in terms of the policy changes that the Biden administration is recommending on taxes. This is still very, very early innings in the debate over taxes and pay-fors in terms of infrastructure and that sort of thing. And, I'm not getting too worked up about any of these suggestions out there at this point. I just, this is going to have to probably be some kind of a bipartisan effort. They may be able to use reconciliation perhaps on individual pieces, but more broadly, there's going to have to be some bipartisan work to create pay-fors for this stuff. And I don't see that resulting in the kind of broad tax measures, tax increases, if you will, that President Biden is suggesting at this point. So it's not something you don't keep an eye on, but I'm not, lighting my hair on fire here and saying, big taxes are coming sort of thing yet, because I think, if this were a sports analogy, this might be the opening pitch, and there's still a lot of baseball yet to be played here.
So a big week in Washington that will set the stage for future big weeks in Washington and around the country. A lot of things going on, a lot of things for folks to learn a little bit more about on agripulse.com. Would encourage you to stop by and do so. But Chuck, we appreciate you joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, you guys, as always.
For Chuck Hunter and Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.